Hi, how are you? I hope you're good. Are you good? Great, great, wonderful. The last book of 2019, the very last book that I read last year, was The Long Walk by Stephen King, writing as Richard Bachman, pseudonym. I really enjoyed this. This ended the year with a bang. It was like so good. I read it basically in one sitting. I've been meaning to film a book review, but I have not until now. Better late than never. The Long Walk by Stephen King. I want to get into it. I want to tell you all about it, but first let's start with some back info. Not necessarily about Stephen King himself, because he's Stephen King, and do you really need to know about Stephen King? You know about Stephen King. You know who Stephen King is. Something that people may not know, I didn't know, this is Stephen King's first novel that he wrote, and I guess he was around the age of 18 or 19 at the time. So can you picture a baby Stephen King? Like a little itty bitty baby Stephen King, barely starting college. Like, I can't picture it. I just see Stephen King as this Stephen King, the kind of creepy looking Stephen King. Anyway, but moving on. So it is just kind of interesting to know that this was his first book. It didn't originally get published, so with the success of his later books, he was then able to publish The Long Walk under his pseudonym Richard Bachman, which I like. I love that this book was then able to get out into the world and people were able to read it, but then at the same time I feel as if it's kind of a disservice in a way, just because I feel, and I know a lot of really big Stephen King fans feel, that this is one of Stephen King's gem, if not one of the best books that he's ever written. This is definitely I would say top 4 or 5 for me, and I've read quite a few Stephen King up till now, so it's kind of just a fun fact, just putting that out there. But yeah, anyway, let's talk about The Long Walk. For those that don't know, this is the story of a futuristic dystopian America where every year we have this event called The Long Walk. There is almost like a draft lottery sort of thing that happens where 100 young men between the ages of who knows, are picked to enter this long walk. And the rules are simple. You have to walk constantly, and if you stop, you will die, but if you don't stop, you'll win. Or you might win, you might die. Basically, these kids just walk constantly. There's 100 of them. Only one person can win. So these kids are walking until they can't walk no more. And if they drop, if they stop, they get 3 warnings. Past that, they're shot down and they die. And that's the story. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. And it's very kind of brutal. It is a brutal story. This book gave me one of the most interesting reading experiences I've ever had, and it's not to say it's because of the subject matter or the story, because it's not like I haven't read anything like this before. I mean, the story itself sounds very similar in essence to things like The Hunger Games or Battle Royale, etc, etc. But interesting enough, this book I think was written way before those. This was written in the late 70s, so putting that out there, I think Stephen King did it first, and if anything they took influence from him. But I think it's such an interesting, wonderful reading experience because this book is just so consuming. I mean, it's a Stephen King book. Stephen King will just grab you from the first page. He won't let you go, and you'll read this so quickly before you know it, it's over, and you can't quite process just what you just experienced, what you read, because this book is such like, I don't want to say it's like a mind F, but it is just so crazy, and you feel for these characters and you're just questioning things left and right because you can't believe that this is something that is going on within the story, and you just wonder how these characters got into the situation that they're in and why they're doing the things that they're doing. We follow one point of view in this story. We follow our main character, Ray Garrity, and he's a teenager, and we follow him as he gets to know the other boys around him that are walking with him, as he builds friendships and gets to know these people's lives on a personal level, and they're all in a way bonded in this one thing that they're trying to do, and you're learning the reasons behind why they're doing what they're doing, whether it's for fame, for money, for just family, for love. There's so many things, for just the heck of it, just because they don't care about life anymore. When I first read this book, after reading it, I looked into what other people thought of this book. Some person brought up that they thought this book kind of was a metaphor for war in a way, especially during the time period that this was originally written in. And in a way you can kind of see that, because it's these group of boys, men, that are just together as a group. They kind of get to know each other for a little bit, and then one by one they just start dying, and you don't quite know the reason for anything that's going on, and there is this higher power that's pushing them to continue on this race, and everyone's watching on their TVs and everyone's cheering them on, but no one's actually doing anything for them, and they're just all going to die in the end, and they don't quite know what they're doing and why, and what they're fighting for, and what their purpose is. And it is so, at the end of the day, such a sad, depressing story, and it left me thinking about it constantly, nonstop, and it kind of left me in a really, really sad mood, to be honest. But I think that Stephen King is just a master storyteller, and I think that these characters are all so fascinating, and Stephen King has such a way with words that no matter what you do trying to not care for these characters despite their flaws and whatnot, he gets you connected to them. And of course they're gonna die, because this is a story where you know that everyone's basically gonna die in the end, except one person, so you can't be connected because they're just all gonna die. So it's such a dark story, and I loved it so much, and I think I can see myself rereading this constantly throughout my life. So if you haven't read The Long Walk, I highly recommend it. It is terrifying. I forgot to mention how terrifying this book is. You read it and you just feel so scared, because you know what's gonna happen, but you're just waiting. You're waiting for each person to go down, whether it's seeing it through our main character's eyes, hearing it from different characters, witnessing it through like TV within this book. There's so many different aspects of this book, how it brings death about in this, and it is a whole nother level. And I don't know what else to say, honestly. That's my review for The Long Walk by Stephen King. It is amazing. I give it all the round of applause. I want a movie. I want a movie now. So I hope there's a movie. I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are for this book. Let me know. I want to talk to people about this. I need to hear your thoughts and opinions. I'll be back later for I don't know what, but I'm gonna go.